Welcome to Lost in Revision. All of our content is public domain, literature, fairy tales, and folklore. We look at stories through an irreverent and lighthearted lens in our discussion episodes, and our daily stories are a fun way to listen to the original versions in a short format that can fit into most people's schedules. If you prefer to listen to full chapters, you can subscribe to our Patreon page. We just added a $1 option that provides early access and more. You can check the show notes for our Linktree page where there are links to all of our public pages, ways to contact us, and all of our content. Our goal is to at least break even to cover our expenses, so any support that you can offer to help us reach that goal helps keep this podcast going and you entertained. All of our music is by Nathan Hubble and is used with his permission. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
Will Stutely rescued by his companions. Part 2. Then he clad himself in a friar's gown, and underneath the robe he hung a good broadsword in such a place that he could easily lay hands upon it. Thus clad, he set forth upon his quest, until he came to the verge of the forest, and so to the highway. He saw 2 bands of the sheriff's men, yet he turned neither to the right nor the left, but only drew his cowl the closer over his face, folding his hands as if in meditation. So at last he came to the sign of the Blue Boar. For, quoth he to himself, our good friend Edom will tell me all the news. At the sign of the Blue Boar he found a band of the sheriff's men drinking right lustily. So, without speaking to anyone, he sat down upon a distant bench, his staff in his hand, and his head bowed forward as though he were meditating. Thus he sat waiting until he might see the landlord apart. And Edom did not know him, but thought him to be some poor, tired friar. So he let him sit without saying a word to him or molesting him, though he liked not the cloth. For, said he to himself, it is a hard heart that kicks the lame dog from off the sill. As Stutely sat thus, there came a great house-cat and rubbed against his knee, raising his robe a palm's breadth high. Stutely pushed his robe quickly down again, but the constable who commanded the sheriff's men saw what had passed, and saw also fair Lincoln green beneath the friar's robe. He said nothing at the time, but communed within himself in this wise. Yon is no friar of orders grey, and also, I wot, no honest yeoman goeth about in priest's garb, nor doth a thief go so for naught. Now I think in good sooth that is one of Robin Hood's own men. So presently he said aloud, O holy father, wilt thou not take a good pot of March beer to slake thy thirsty soul withal? For he said to himself, maybe there be those here who know my voice. Then the constable said again, Whither goest thou, holy friar, upon this hot summer's day? I go to a pilgrim in Canterbury town, answered Will Stutely, speaking gruffly so that none might know his voice. Then the constable said for the 3rd time, Now tell me, holy father, do pilgrims go to Canterbury, wear good Lincoln green beneath their robes? Ha! By my faith, I take thee to be some lusty thief, and perhaps one of Robin Hood's own band. Now, by Our Lady's grace, if thou movest hand or foot, I will run thee through the body with my sword. Then he flashed forth his bright sword and leaped upon Will Stutely, thinking he would take him unaware. But Stutely had his own sword tightly held in his hand beneath his robe, so he drew it forth before the constable came upon him. Then the stout constable struck a mighty blow, but he struck no more in all that fight, for Stutely, parrying the blow right deftly, smote the constable back again with all his might. Then he would have escaped, but could not, for the other, all dizzy with the wound and with the flowing of blood, seized him by the knees with his arms even as he reeled and fell. Then the others rushed upon him and astutely struck again at another of the sheriff's men, but the steel cap glanced the blow, and though the blade bit deep, it did not kill. Meanwhile the constable, fainting as he was, drew Stuteley downward, and the others, seeing the yeoman hampered so, rushed upon him again, and one smote him a blow upon the crown, so that the blood ran down his face and blinded him. Then, staggering, he fell, and all sprang upon him, though he struggled so manfully that they could hardly hold him fast. Then they bound him with stout hempen cords, so that he could not move either hand or foot, and thus they overcame him.
I hope you're enjoying the stories. We sure are enjoying creating this for you. If you go and sign up on Patreon, you can listen without having to hear me talking in the intro and outro. For only $3 a month, you get the full chapters as soon as I have them edited, and you have your own personal RSS feed with no interruptions. We just added a $1 option that provides early access and more. We also have an account with buymeacoffee.com if you want to support us that way. So check out our link tree in the show notes for all of the best ways to get in touch and support the show.
There's a lot more waiting for us all at the end of the road.